Welcome to Speakeasy Spirits. Today, we're going to try brainstorming a new cocktail recipe that can win us a cocktail competition. My favorite cocktail website, Difford's Guide, is having a contest to see who can come up with the best recipe using Herring Cherry Liqueur. So today I'm going to brainstorm some ideas, see what we can come up with, and try to come up with an award-winning recipe. So my process in coming up with a new recipe is usually just free association. I'll start with one ingredient or flavor profile and build from there. So since we know we're starting with the cherry liqueur, I'm thinking lime, since cherry limeade is a good flavor. Since the cherry liqueur is a modifier, we're going to need a base spirit. I'm thinking we go along the lines of the fruitiness and maybe an apple brandy. So we're going to start with Calvados as our base spirit. This is an 80 proof apple brandy from France. Now we've got apple, cherry, and lime. I think we need to round this out, make it a little more complex. So we could either go with Coca Americano. This is similar to a vermouth. It's wine-based, but it'll add a little bit of bitterness and some herbal notes. Or possibly Saint Germain. This is an elderflower liqueur. It's going to add a floral note to it. So let's make one with each of these and see how it turns out. When I'm trying out a new recipe, I like to start with an equal parts cocktail. That's going to tell us where we can add and subtract. And sometimes equal parts works out perfect and doesn't need any changes, like in a Corpse Reviver number 2 or a Sunflower. The other thing about an equal parts cocktail is you can make it in very small batches when you're experimenting. That way you don't have to use up a lot of your ingredients on a cocktail that maybe didn't work out quite right. So we're going to start by squeezing our lime. And I am going to pour a ½ ounce of lime juice. We'll add that to our shaker. A ½ ounce of the Coca Americano. So this cocktail should turn out similar to a Corpse Reviver. A ½ ounce of Calvados, also known as apple brandy. And a ½ ounce of our main ingredient, the Herring Cherry Liqueur. Now we're going to shake that over ice. For a little extra complexity, let's spray a glass with some absinthe. This is going to add some herbal and floral notes and just a hint of black licorice. Let's strain that in. Since we're going with a sort of cherry limeade flavor, let's garnish it with a dehydrated lime wheel and a cherry. I don't have a name for this cocktail yet. The name is going to be 25% of the scoring in the contest. So if you have any great ideas, leave them in the comment section below. Now that came out very nice. It's got a tart, bitter cherry flavor to it. It's not too sweet. It doesn't have that cough syrup cherry flavor that a lot of cherry drinks have. You've got some tartness from the lime. The Coca Americano is adding a little bit of herbal and floral notes. The apple brandy brings it all together as a very fruity cocktail. You don't necessarily taste the apple up front. What you mostly get is that tart cherry flavor. It's really good. Now that we've seen that this can work as an equal parts cocktail, let's make a few alterations. Instead of the apple brandy, let's swap out that base spirit. I want the cherry flavor to come through strong since this is a Herring Cherry Liqueur contest. So I don't want to use a gin where the juniper and herbal notes might overpower the cherry flavor. So we're going to try a contemporary gin that's a little easier on the juniper notes, something like Aviation. Then as a modifier, we're going to replace the Coca Americano with Saint Germain elderflower liqueur. We'll of course have our cherry herring, and I'm thinking we'll swap out the lime for a lemon this time and see how that works. So let's start by juicing a lemon. Again, we're going to go all ½ ounce with this. Once I'm happy with the recipe, if I decide to stick with an equal parts cocktail, we'll take that all up to 3/4 of an ounce. half an ounce of lemon juice, half an ounce of cherry liqueur, half an ounce of aviation gin, and half an ounce of Saint Germain. We're going to shake that over ice. I do like the absinthe note from the first cocktail, so we're going to stay with the absinthe glass. Let's strain that in. And let's garnish that with a wheel of lemon. And since it is a cherry liqueur competition, I think we have to add a cherry to that glass. Again, I don't have a name for this cocktail either. If you think of one, leave it in the comment section below. This one's a little lighter than the first cocktail, a little more herbaceous. We still get a strong cherry flavor from this one, but it's definitely sweeter from the addition of the Saint Germain. It's got very pronounced herbal and floral notes, which are nice. It's also a lot less tart, switching to the lemon juice from the lime of the first cocktail. Now, between these two, they're both really good, but I think the little bitter note to the first cocktail really sets it apart. So let's play with that bitterness a bit by changing up the cocktail one more time. To build on that bitter note of the first cocktail, we're going to switch out the Saint Germain with Aperol. This is a bitter red Italian liqueur, but as bitter red Italian liqueurs go, this is one of the sweetest. The rest of the recipe, we're going to keep the same. So once again, half an ounce of lemon, half an ounce of cherry liqueur, half an ounce of aviation gin, and the new ingredient, half an ounce of Aperol. Let's shake that up. Once again with the absinthe rinsed coupe. Now this one definitely came out a slightly more orange color due to the Aperol. Let's garnish that with a cocktail cherry. That's really interesting. That is the most like a cherry limeade out of all of these drinks. And it doesn't even have any lime in it. Something about the flavor profile of the Aperol mixed with all the ingredients just brings forward that cherry limeade flavor. I don't think it's as complex as the first or second cocktail. It definitely loses the floral note that they each had. The gin is kind of hidden underneath the tartness of it. And the Aperol, despite being more bitter than the Coca Americano, the bitterness really doesn't come through here the way it did with the first cocktail. Let's try them again side by side. They're both really good. I'd be happy with any of these if I ordered them at a restaurant or bar. As far as the competition goes, I think the complexity of the first cocktail is probably the one that I would choose. But I'd like to try one more thing. Let's throw an oddball in here. So far we've got 3 great classic style cocktails, but I'd like to take this in another direction and maybe try out something with some tiki flavors. So let's see if we can make some kind of Mai Tai out of this cherry liqueur. Now this is not an equal parts cocktail, so I'm going to go with my tried and true regular Mai Tai recipe, which uses a full ounce of lime juice. For our base spirit, let's go with this Plantation 3-Star White Rum. Now normally in my Mai Tais, I would use an aged rum, something with some color on it. But in this case, I want the cherry to really shine through. So we're going to go with a mellower white rum. 2 ounces of that. And for our sweetener, we're going to use my chai infused orgeat. This is basically just equal parts of almond milk and sugar with a couple of chai tea bags steeped in it. That should give us some nice spice notes. And let's go with a full ounce of that. Now let's give that a good shake. We'll strain that into a rocks glass over 1 large piece of ice. Normally I'd garnish a Mai Tai with some mint. I don't have any today. So let's do a couple of drops of Angostura bitters over the top. And since it is a tiki cocktail, I think we need a tiny umbrella and a cherry. And there you have a cherry Chai Tai. The chai spices work really good with the cherry. You've got a bit of tartness from the lime. The orgeat is adding just enough sweetness to balance it all out. If you're going to use a store-bought orgeat, they're typically going to have more sugar in them, so you're going to want to reduce the amount of orgeat you add to this recipe. Overall, I'm really happy with both of these cocktails. The cherry Chai Tai has a nice nuttiness to it that works well with the cherry, where this one has a bit more complexity and is a little bit more spirit forward. They're both really good, and I'm having a hard time figuring out which one I'm going to submit to the contest. But if you want to see which one I do enter, check out differenceguide.com. Sometime in mid-January of 2024, the results will be in and we'll know who won. If you like this video, be sure to like and subscribe. We'll see you next time.